Pedro Guevara Man.
And I'm Father Chris Valka. It's Day 1, World Youth Day, Madrid, and I am thrilled to be here.
Yes.
My vocation was actually inspired by World Youth Day in Denver in 1993, and now I'm a Basilian priest, been ordained about 2 years, currently stationed at the University of Windsor in Windsor, Ontario, and it's great to be here today.
Yeah, no, it's great now. Father Chris is not just joining us today. He's going to be with us throughout the week, so it's going to be fun.
Absolutely.
And it's a great pleasure to have you here with us. Now, today is, as Father Chris said, Day 1. It's the first official day of World Youth Day. The first main event will be beginning very shortly. The opening Mass in about 25 minutes. Pilgrims have been gathering at Cibeles Square for maybe 2 hours now, and we're going to get to that. But before that, yesterday we were speaking a little bit about what it's like to host a World Youth Day. And today we're going to get a chance to hear a little bit about what it's like to go to a World Youth Day.
We're also going to consider what it means to be built up and planted and firm in our faith.
Absolutely. And we're also going to meet our World Youth Day patron of today. She's a doctor of the church. She's a woman who revolutionized her own religious congregation, and at least in my opinion, she's revolutionized all religious congregations for women. She is all that and a lot more is coming up, so don't go anywhere.
Her feast day is October the 15th. She holds the title of Doctor of Prayer. She is the first woman to be proclaimed a Doctor of the Church. Meet Saint Teresa of Avila, your World Youth Day saint.
You know, a lot of people think that World Youth Day begins today, but it doesn't necessarily begin today because the pilgrims have been preparing for months and maybe a year or even more than that by prayers and fundraising, and really that's what a pilgrimage is all about. There's a lot of preparation that goes, and this is really the manifestation of a middle road, if you will. I mean, they're kind of in the middle stage because then they also have to go home.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about, you really get the sense of pilgrimage days like yesterday and today when the pilgrims are
things don't
arriving.
go quite as well as you might think they would.
They're tired.
That's right.
They've been in an airplane for 18 hours.
Yeah, some of them don't smell too good. I've already noticed, and it's true. Yeah,
they arrive and they don't know where they're staying.
But then they get here and they are excited and overjoyed, and really the electricity that has come into this city already is transformative.
I was going to ask you, because you mentioned that you went to Denver.
Right, I did, as a pilgrim.
So do you remember what it's like to be a pilgrim?
Oh, absolutely.
At a World Youth Day.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was the first time that I'd ever seen I thought I knew what it meant to be Catholic.
Yeah.
But really all I knew was what my experience of Sunday Mass was. And then I went there, and I remember at the first time I heard the Alleluia in the opening Mass, which is tonight, that it was amplified. I mean, in the usual course of the Mass, there were 90,000 people, and there weren't that many. It's kind of a mumbled response because of all the different languages. But the Alleluia is universal. Yeah. And really, it was that moment in which, for myself, I thought, God, I want to be a part of this somehow. It really meant, I really saw the church in a whole new way. It's about 15 years ago today.
No, it's true. Wow. It's true. I think we talked about this yesterday, that if you really want to experience church, you need to go to a World Youth Day. Amidst the chaos and the sleepless nights and the hunger and the backaches. And I tell people that if they really want to experience World Youth Day, they need to go to the airport on
or
the day
a bus station or a train station or any kind of mass transit.
When the pilgrims are arriving. And that's in fact what Sheridan Echelaar was doing yesterday. She was at the airport, and what she did today was she was following some pilgrims, and this is what she found out.
Hello, Canada. We're coming from Indonesia, and we cannot wait to see you guys in Madrid, Spain.
What do you think will be a highlight for you personally?
For sure to hear what the Pope has to say to all the youth in terms of advice and stuff like that, as well as a better understanding of the Bible and God and how everything works.
The highlight for me is to experience Christ first, also to be with other people and to share faith with other people. I will not keep my faith for me alone, but I want to share with other people also, and to all the world.
I'm pretty much anticipating just seeing a lot of youth from all over the world, meeting a lot of new people, and just basically opening my eyes to more aspects of my faith and growing stronger with people around me and just God and all that he has to offer for us.
What are you looking forward to, bringing to Madrid and receiving from this experience?
Oh, we've been travelling along since France. Actually, we've been to Lourdes and along the El Camino way. So that process has really already begun for us, and I guess it's all about here now and just getting into the spirit of things.
So to glorify God and also to bring love and peace to Madrid.
The first day is always exciting, but today was especially exciting here in the Palacio de Deportes because today was the national gathering for both the Canadian group and the Australian group.
Yes.
And this was the first time that the Canadians ever had their own gathering. So today we had about 20 bishops, 120 priests, and about 4,000 of the 6,000 pilgrims were here today.
Yeah.
And so it was really great. And I have to say that as exciting as it was to see a lot of friends and familiar faces, I really felt something when the arrival of the cross and icon came today. That to me is like World Youth Day began. And
I was going to say that because we've been saying, well, it doesn't really officially start until tonight with the opening mass, but it very much started for us this morning.
I think because
with the arrival of the cross.
Yeah, because I think for both the Canadians and the Australians, the reality is that, these are two groups that are kind of reliving their own World Youth Day experiences. Both these groups, and I think for myself, because I was also on the Australian team, and this is now, I've seen this cross on 3 different continents and in 3 different countries, and so I think for me, it really, I was moved by the entrance of the cross and the icon.
And what was nice about, maybe it's important to say that national gatherings are common during World Youth Day. Pilgrims from a country are together, so you might as well gather them together and celebrate not just your faith, but also not national pride. That's maybe not the right way to say it.
No, but I think it starts off as a bit of national pride, and then what you watch in the course of the week is you see the national pride transforms into really a universal pride. I think we all start somewhere, and we start with our own experience, which is really rooted in our own country.
Yeah,
and then it spans from there.
I was sitting inside the arena this morning and expecting to see a sea of Canadian flags, and so here are all the Canadians, and there's a Mexican flag and a Lebanese flag, and I thought, in a way, that's Canada, but also it's World Youth Day.
That's right, it really is, and I think for me too, this is the first time I've been able to see a lot of my Australian friends from 2008, that World Youth Day. I've kept up on Facebook and email and whatnot, but gosh, I was really overjoyous to be with them again in the context of faith and prayer, and there was a lot of that. I remember Cardinal Pell actually had some very moving words in the Australian gathering, and he talked about that in a time when we see so much movement of peoples because of war, that World Youth Day is one of the largest reasons for a movement of people and the largest reason for a movement of young people that exist. And so for that reason, he called World Youth Day that these are moments of grace, and really did challenge the pilgrims that amidst all the excitement to make sure that they embrace the silent moments and the quiet moments of prayer and of adoration. And I think it was a great reminder and a great tone setter for all the pilgrims for us today.
And I think, like you said for yourself, for me, I worked during World Youth Day in Toronto, and then I did not go to Cologne, but I went to Sydney. So Toronto in Canada and Sydney in Australia. So the two gatherings are very much my World Youth Day experience.
Yeah, and I think for me too. I've been in Toronto, and have certainly kind of seen what happens in the aftermath, if you will, and what happen. How do you capitalize on all of the joy and the experience of World Youth Day, and then you get to watch Sydney come in with all this hype. They're really excited to be here and kind of pass the torch, if you will. And so I think there's a lot that Canada gets a chance to, at least from my perspective, we get to see from Sydney and kind of remember that ourselves, because that's what they're doing.
I was especially moved, and I always am. It happened during the Eucharistic Congress in Quebec City as well. When you have so many bishops, and we had 20 Canadian bishops on stage today, and in fact, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later, because there's a significance to having bishops present at World Youth Day. So I was just going to say, just to close off, maybe that it was the first Canadian gathering that hopefully is not going to be the last.
Absolutely, we hope not.
Next World Youth Day, be sure that we're going to kick off with a Canadian gathering. And as I said before, coming up shortly will be a very special guest. So don't go anywhere.
Did you know that when Saint Teresa was young, her and her brother Rodrigo liked to read the lives of the saints? They were fascinated by the idea that they would go directly to heaven after they died. It seemed to them that they paid a really cheap price for going to rejoice in God. In this way, they decided to become martyrs for Christ. Saint Teresa of Avila, pray for us. Every World Youth Day has a scriptural theme. This year's theme is taken from St. Paul's letter to the Colossians, planted and built up in Jesus Christ, firm in the faith.
I think the theme of this year's World Youth Day is very appropriate for the young people of today, because many times they're looking for things to root their lives in, and so to see Christ and the faith as being an important area and necessity to sort of live their lives and to root themselves in that, and to see how that is a very important dimension of the Christian life.
The theme, Firm in the Faith, I hope recalls to the participants the importance of being grounded. And who are we grounded in? That we must be built on the rock of Christ and in a personal relationship with Him. When we live with Him, we abide with Him. And when the young people and the bishops, together with the Holy Father, gather in Madrid, it's just an optimal occasion to do that, to reaffirm the great wonder of the Church, the mystery of its Catholicity, people from every language and tongue and nation coming together as the one Church, the body of Christ.
As the theme itself suggests, those putting down of roots are ultimately putting them down into the person of Jesus Christ. And to be nourished and strengthened by the love that comes from those roots into our lives and takes us over, that's what, as the theme itself says, helps these young people to grow firm in their faith and to know the joy of being a follower of the Lord.
And we've also been listening to Firmes en la Fe, this year's World Youth Day theme song, which also reflects the scriptural passage.
We've just been joined by a very special guest, Bishop Paul André Durocher from the Diocese of Alexandria, Cornwall. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Now, I'm curious, how many World Youth Days is this for you?
Well, my third also.
Your third, okay.
Yes. So Rome, my first was Rome, the Jubilee year in 2000, then Canada, obviously.
Yes.
And I would have loved to have gone to the other two. I was withheld. I couldn't make it, but I'm really happy to be here in Madrid.
But you're here, and you're a catechist at this one, so that's a special...
Yes, I have to say, being a bishop catechist, because I mean there are 800 bishops that are here, so not all 800 give catecheses, but to be invited to be a catechist, and I was in Rome and again in Toronto, so to do that experience again is a real thrill.
Then maybe I'd like to get your thoughts on the theme, if you don't mind. I mean, I think
because you've been preparing.
Because you've been preparing, hopefully. For me, I mean, I was struck by this idea that the word choice of being built up and planted and firm. Pope Benedict was very clear that these are all passive voice, meaning that, and he emphasized that this is all initiated by Christ.
Yeah.
How does that come across? I mean, because I think young people struggle with this concept. I mean, as a catechist, how do you help them understand?
I mean, not even young people. Take the word to be firm. Actually, in the Greek, it's confirmed, to be confirmed.
Oh,
a lot of people, when they're going to be confirmed, they say, I'm going to confirm my faith. And their teachers tell them, you're going to confirm your faith. I tell them, no, that's not true. You're not. It's God who's confirming you. God is making you firm. And so this whole passage in the letter to the Colossians, Paul, I think, is really trying to tell the Colossians, look, you don't fit Jesus into your philosophy, because that was the problem with the Colossians. The Colossians had all these philosophies, and they heard about Jesus. Oh yeah, and he fits here and he fits there. No. He says you don't fit Jesus into philosophy. You change your philosophy to fit Jesus. Jesus is at the center, you know. It's like the whole solar system is being changed. Jesus isn't the planet that revolves around some other sun. Jesus is the sun at the center of the solar system. So he's saying to them, be rooted, be planted, be confirmed in Jesus, not in anybody else, not in anything else, but in Jesus.
Is there a tendency to make all those three words mean the same thing when in fact maybe they're different steps
Well,
towards...
They're different metaphors. And actually, in the sentence, there's a fourth metaphor. He says, walk in Christ. He says, walk in Christ. Rooted, how do you walk when you're rooted? But he's mixing the metaphors. Rooted like a tree, built up like a building, and confirmed like a living being, made strong, made solid. So it's a mixture of metaphors that are all there, all centered on Christ.
But one of the other things that the Pope did talk about was this idea of being rooted, and he said that the youth are entitled to what has been given to them by previous generations. And I think so often when we think about entitlement, it's in the negative. Yeah. But this idea of being firm and rooted in this idea of being rooted in something really means that there has to be something passed down from a previous generation.
Absolutely. And this is where I think the Pope is not only talking to the young people, but he's talking to the broader church. And he's saying, look, if you want the youth to be rooted and to be confirmed and established, you have a responsibility towards these young people. You have to be the community that will help them be rooted and will help them be confirmed and built up in Christ, because the church needs to be handing this on. And then he'll tell the young people, and you have to become part of this church that also hands it on too.
Yeah. Now you had some involvement with the Toronto theme and song, I believe, correct?
Yes, I was
a translator.
I was thinking of that one just listening to the clip just now. I thought, oh, Paul Andre wrote.
Robert Lebel wrote. I worked with Robert Lebel.
The English translation.
Yeah, Father Robert Lebel wrote the original song in French.
Lumière du Monde, Light of the World.
And then I'm the one who worked the English translation with him. Yes.
Can I ask you then, because it's important for World Youth Day to have a theme, a scriptural theme, but it's also important for that theme to be reflected musically. As a musician, I think that's important. I think it helps more than just kind of as a glue.
Right.
But why then is a theme song important?
Well, I think the whole point is that there are different languages. Music is one language, theater is another language, catechesis is a language, liturgy is a language, and when the theme keeps on coming through all those languages, slowly it takes on a life. It becomes alive. It's no longer a quote from the Bible. It becomes a motto, practically, for the young people who are here to carry with them as they go on.
And that's true, because one of the things that also came out in this whole, the Pope wrote a letter about the theme about a year ago to all of the pilgrims. And at the very end, I mean, he was very clear that this doesn't mean a whole lot unless these pilgrims go back and witness their experience of World Youth Day that are pilgrims. And so, I mean, I would think the song is a very clear way of helping pilgrims remember their experience and to witness what they've learned here.
I think the whole experience, the song with everything else and the relationships and the meetings, even to come back to the catechesis, this year I've noticed, because we get our you could say marching orders from the Pontifical Council for the lay people to the catechists. They're saying, here's the themes, and this is what you're going to talk about, and this is what you're going to focus on, and they're much clearer this year than they've been in the past. So you bring all of that together, the words become alive in young people's lives, so that when they go back, they can speak about it. They have language to speak about it. They have convictions that they can share with others. They can become missionaries.
And even if they don't remember anything, they'll remember the tune and the words.
Remember the tune,
better than nothing.
I'm interested in what you just said, though. You said that it's different from previous years. I mean, how is it different than previous years? What's different about this?
I think what I noticed, at least from the words that we were given, the text that we were given about the catechesis, that they are much more explicit about what the points that we are to speak about. They don't write the talk for us. Each bishop is free to do it in his way, but it is clear for them what it is that we need to touch on, so that there's a growth pattern. The first day is going to be on faith, the second day on Christ, the third day on mission, so that there's a progression that goes through, so that the 3 days of the catechesis become itself kind of a pilgrimage. You're walking through these days and through these themes.
Can I ask you briefly, while we have you, because people tend to think that World Youth Day is about youth and the pilgrims, but World Youth Day is also, it would not be a World Youth Day without bishops. I mean, the bishops are the teachers.
And there's a lot of you here.
It's not just a catechist. It's a bishop that's doing a catechist. Why is that important? Why is it important for you as a bishop to be here at World Youth Day?
Well, I think there are two sides to this. One, in the sense of the role of the bishop. The bishop, the Second Vatican Council said, people forget this, that the bishop in his diocese is the vicar of Christ. We're used to hearing the Pope as the vicar of Christ, but each bishop in his diocese is the vicar of Christ. And so for the bishop to come with people from his diocese, really that link, that bond becomes personal, becomes human. That is so important. And by giving the catechesis, he really embodies that role of the principal teacher of the faith within the church as a successor of the apostle. I mean, the bishops continue the ministry of the apostles by being the teachers, the guarantors of the faith. So there's all of that aspect. But to be quite honest, I think most bishops are here because they enjoy the days so much. And that is a real gift.
Yeah, well, Bishop Paul Andre, we're approaching the beginning of the opening Mass. But it's been great having you here.
Great,
thank you for your thoughts and your insights. Bishop Paul Andre Durocher, he's the Bishop of the Diocese of Alexandria, Cornwall in Ontario, in Canada. He's also a catechist, a French catechist at this World Youth Day. Thanks for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
Now, the Mass will be beginning shortly, and we're going to get to that. But before, we want to cover a little bit about what's happening tomorrow. So that's coming right up. So don't go anywhere. So the pilgrims have been gathering for about 2 hours now, maybe. The excitement, I think, I'd say we can feel it, but I can imagine it because it is always the same way, you know, pilgrims gathering, streets have been closed.
But they're probably a little warm. That sun is still pretty intense out there.
It's still pretty intense, but that's one of the reasons why this opening Mass is actually later than most. Traditionally, it's in the afternoon, 4 o'clock. Here it's at 8 p.m. Madrid time. But tomorrow, just before we go to the Mass, tomorrow is the official first day of the catechesis sessions. And even though there have been youth festival events happening today, really the youth festival activities, the cultural program, begins tomorrow. And to tell us a little bit about all you need to know to prepare for tomorrow, here is Salt and Light's Alicia Ambrosio.
World Youth Day has officially begun in Madrid, and tomorrow the rest of the activities get underway. The key thing happening tomorrow is the start of the catechesis sessions. They're happening by language group. The city has been divided according to these language groups, and pilgrims have a list of churches and other venues to go to for catechesis in their own native tongue. Now, I'm standing in front of the Palacio de Deportes, and the Palacio de Deportes is going to serve as one of the key catechesis sites for the English language. It's also host to a whole bunch of other activities in English happening here in Madrid. It's hosted by the Knights of Columbus and the Sisters of Life, and there are going to be round table discussions, presentations, musical performances, theatrical performances, and of course a lot of time and space for prayer and Eucharistic adoration. Now, there is a booklet like this called The Guide in every pilgrim backpack, and it lists everything that is part of the cultural program here in Madrid, and pilgrims are encouraged to go through it and plan their day using this book and check out everything that has been put together for them here in Madrid.
Now, we don't quite have images from the opening Mass, although it is beginning shortly. Like I said, pilgrims have been gathering. It's worth noting, Alicia mentioned the guide, so it made me think that the pilgrims have also been given, thanks to this wonderful publication that many of you know, Magnificat, all the readings, and it's not just the readings of the Mass, but there's morning and evening prayer. And so the pilgrims are able, in their own language, to follow all the readings, the petitions, the
prayers, there's meditations on the saints, and there's a lot of different things to be able to make sure that they, again, this isn't about all the cultural stuff, but this really is a chance to be able to deepen their prayer, and hopefully they're praying this together. I think that would be one of my hopes for them, is that they have a chance as pilgrims on their way while they're coming. Some of them have longer commutes in the city, and so they can, and they often do. They pray the morning prayer on their way into the city on the bus or on the subway or whatever.
And that's what I thought, that it's good for communal prayer, but it's good for private prayer. And for a lot of these young people, they've never even seen the office, morning prayer. So that's a great initiation to these prayers of the church.
Yeah, and sometimes the masses themselves can be a bit overwhelming. I mean, they I mean, there's so much going around, and there's so much excitement and everything else. So it's a great chance for the leaders to be able to say, let's go back and reread those readings. And I know the opening reading today that is from Isaiah that particularly struck me was, we shout in a joyful song to the Lord, and that's what people are going to be hearing at this opening mass tonight. And the gospel is the famous dialogue with Peter on who do you say I am, and do you love me, and to follow me, and what that means. So.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the readings, because if people are expecting that it's the daily mass of Tuesday, August the 16th, it isn't. It's a very special mass.
Right.
And this is kind of an interesting fact, because it's the votive mass of Blessed Pope John Paul.
Yeah, that's right.
And again,
it's really been dedicated to him.
But had you asked me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have clue. I mean, I know that there are feast days and special masses for saints, but every saint and every blessed has their votive mass.
Right.
So it's kind of
neat. It makes great sense. I mean, this is a land that has really dedicated itself to Mary. Pope John Paul, his pontificate was dedicated to Mary, so it's a very fitting place, and it is, and they give credit. I mean, it's to him that all of these World Youth Days, really kind of began, and so
this is the first World Youth Day that Pope John Paul II is a blessed, recognized as a blessed.
Right.
And so it's the first time that he is actually one of the patron saints.
Right.
Patron blessed of World Youth Day. So that's kind of neat, and that'll be very obvious. You'll hear that theme coming up as the mass progresses, because I know that the celebrant will bring it up, and maybe we should tell them who the celebrant is, because the Holy Father has not arrived yet.
Right, that's right.
The Holy Father arrives on Thursday.
Right.
And traditionally, again, the opening mass is presided by the Cardinal, Archbishop, and in this case, he's the Archbishop of Madrid, Cardinal Antonio Maria Rocco Varela.
Mm-hmm.
So he will be celebrating.
One of the things I want to go back to John Paul II. I mean, because we just found out that the gospel, correct, has a special significance, I think, to John Paul. Correct. That the actual book itself is, I think, as a relic, right?
Yes, absolutely. The lectionary.
The lectionary that's being used tonight.
The lectionary that is being used tonight has a relic of Blessed Pope John Paul.
Right, within it.
So that's kind of
you don't hear that all the time, so it's a little bit different. So this really is. They've really gone to great strides here in Madrid to make sure that this was really a Eucharist that is in remembrance of Pope John Paul II.
Yeah, so that's kind of neat. So we know that he's going to be present, but he's present in a special way.
That's right.
At least through the proclamation of the word.
Right. And these opening masses always have so much energy to them, because it's, for the first time, these pilgrims, I mean, they've never seen a mass with so many people, and the plaza is sure to be, filled with excitement, and I always know that, the music and the pageantry and the this is a chance for Madrid to be able to also infuse some of its own cultural celebrations of Eucharist here, and so that we will certainly be seeing that tonight.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Now, maybe I know we spoke about it a little bit yesterday, and we're seeing some images of the masses. They're preparing for the mass. It's taking place on a stage that they've built in front of the City Hall.
Yeah,
City Hall, which is this gorgeous building that looks kind of like a medieval castle.
Right.
But it's in a centrally located square in Madrid, Plaza Cibeles.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've closed a cross intersection. So you'll see pilgrims, probably with the aerial shots, you'll see pilgrims
up and down the streets,
and
in the center of the
four
square.
directions, forming a cross around. And we're seeing images now of the opening procession